Is Arc Raiders already dying? Or are players just hitting the part of the game development nobody likes? Because right now, people are freaking out over nerfs, durability changes, and Steam reviews dropping hard. And honestly, I get it. But dev logic in live service games can look completely insane from the outside. So let me explain why some of these controversial changes might actually be happening and why this situation probably isn't as simple as people think. Alright, welcome back. Let's talk about Arc Raiders, because I think some of the frustration right now is completely fair, but I also think people are overreacting to changes that are pretty normal for a live service extraction shooter. And coming from a game testing background, this cycle happens constantly. At launch, everything feels great because nobody has solved the game yet. Players are experimenting, progression feels fresh, and the economy hasn't been optimized. But eventually, players figure everything out. Best loot routes, strongest builds, safest farming methods, and once that happens, developers have to rebalance the game. So when people point at weapon durability changes, expedition requirements, or economy adjustments as proof the game is dying, I don't really agree. Can those changes feel frustrating? Absolutely. But systems like durability and resource pressure exist to create tension. Without risk, extraction shooters lose their stakes fast. The bigger problem right now is communication. A lot of these updates feel reactive because Embark isn't clearly explaining the long-term goal behind them. And when players don't understand the why behind a nerf, they assume devs are just removing fun. That's where the backlash starts snowballing. Now, let's talk about the Steam reviews. Yes, dropping from 84% to 63% matters, but Steam reviews are emotional snapshots more than long-term quality measurements. Most people leave reviews when they're either really happy or really frustrated. And right now, Arc Raiders is leaving its honeymoon phase and forcing players to adapt. That always creates backlash, especially in PvPvE games, because PvE players and PvP players usually want completely different experiences. One side wants accessibility and lower punishment, the other wants tension, scarcity, and higher stakes. Balancing both is incredibly difficult. And to be fair, some criticism is valid. The patina changes, the photoelectric cloak nerf, and pacing adjustments clearly hurt certain playstyles harder than others. Some players feel the way they enjoy the game got invalidated overnight. That feeling is real, but balanced changes are also supposed to break dominant metas. If one setup becomes mandatory, variety disappears fast. And from what I'm seeing, Embark seems focused on long-term ecosystem health more than short-term player comfort. Painful now? Maybe. Better long-term? Probably. Honestly, I don't think Arc Raiders is dying. I think it's going through the same identity crisis almost every extraction shooter hits after launch. You can already see Embark's direction. They're slowing progression, increasing resource pressure, and trying to make decisions during expeditions matter more. Those aren't random changes. That's a design philosophy. Now, whether players actually want that experience is a different conversation, because a lot of people liked Arc Raiders specifically because it felt more casual and accessible than other extraction shooters. Less punishing, less sweaty. And if Embark pushes too far toward hardcore balancing, there's definitely a risk they will push away the broader audience that made the game popular. But the opposite problem is real too. If progression stays too generous and systems become too easy to optimize, players burn through content fast. Then it's suddenly, loot doesn't matter, the economy is dead, there's nothing to grind for. I've seen that cycle happen constantly in multiplayer testing. Players love overpowered systems at first, until those systems destroy replayability. That's why I think these updates are less about making the game worse and more about future-proofing it before unhealthy systems become permanent. Now, does Embark need better communication? Absolutely. Do some systems probably need tuning? Definitely. But I don't think this is panic territory yet. I think this is a studio trying to stabilize its game before the meta fully locks in. And honestly, I'd rather see aggressive iteration now than complete silence 6 months from now. At least this tells me they're paying attention. But the next few updates are going to matter a lot. Because if player feedback keeps feeling ignored, that's when sentiment can really spiral. So that's my take on the current Arc Raiders situation. I think some criticism is fair, but I also think people are underestimating how important these balance passes are for the game's long-term survival.
Watch out, stay back.
Oh yeah, the road to 100k is still very much alive. I just had to throw my 2 cents into the whole Arc Raiders is dying rumor mill. You know where you can throw your 2 cents? At the like button and maybe the sub button.
Ooh, got him. You can have the loot if you want, dude. All yours.
But let me know what you think. Are these changes healthy long term? Or do you think Embark is overcorrecting and pushing players away? Drop your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around because we'll definitely be tracking where Arc Raiders goes from here.
Minutes left. You can go
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.